Welcome to CIPE at 40, a limited edition podcast series highlighting CIPE's work and featuring the innovative people who helped lead it. I'm John Morrell, CIPE's Regional Director for the Asia Pacific Department, and your host for this episode about CIPE's work in South Asia. Today's guest is Salima Ahmed, President of the Bangladesh Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The Bangladesh Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry was the first chamber of commerce in Bangladesh that worked exclusively on women's economic and social empowerment. Longtime CIPE partner Salima Ahmed, president of the organization, is here to share the challenges and triumphs of her work. Breaking gender barriers and strengthening women's participation in Bangladesh's private sector. Coming up on CIPE at 40. So Salima, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And let me congratulate CIPE and each one of us, because I think we are all CIPE family for the celebration of 40 years. And I'm very proud that I could be, and the women entrepreneurs could be a part of CIPE's journey.
Wonderful, Salima. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask the first question I have for you. And for everyone listening, we are going to talk politics a little bit. We're going to ask Salima about the election, what the latest news is out of Bangladesh. But before we get to that, Salima, I'd love for you to just share that story of how and why you created the Women's Chamber of Commerce, how you came across CIPE, and how you, with CIPE's help, built BWCCI into what it is today. Love for you to share that story.
Thank you, John. I remember that I was just resigned from the Apex Trade Body, which is the Federation of Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is a platform for the business community. And I was the only woman elected board of directors. I finished my term, and then in the second term in 2000, I again ran for the same post, and I own. But then I found that nothing was happening. The trade body are not actually bringing women into entrepreneurship, or women leaders was not there. So and I was not finding it the way the Chamber of Commerce should work. So I resigned, and then I was in Delhi for a South Asia women entrepreneurs sort of a conference, which the SCAP organized. And there I met Rezani, which I'm sure Saip also know, the Sri Lankan Women Chamber of Commerce. And then when we were discussing about the women entrepreneurs engaging more and seeing more leadership role, then someone says, Salima, why don't you form a women's business organization? Then I said, yes, we should do it. So I asked the Sri Lanka Women Chamber, send me all your documents, how you have done. So I came back, and then I sat with the women entrepreneurs of Bangladesh, and everyone was so happy. And during that time, women entrepreneurs was really, really in crisis, because they were doing businesses, but they don't know ultimately what to do. And they have started maybe a showroom or not. Mostly they're coming from homemakers, and they don't know exactly their roadmap. And I do remember that whenever I used to see their products, I was not happy that how they will survive with this sort of quality of a product, and their ignorance of knowing the actual business thing. So when I came back, and then I went to the Minister of Commerce and with the DTO, Director of Trade Organization, that I would like to form. They said, no, you can't do it, because there's no provision for Women's Chamber of Commerce. And all over Bangladesh, you can't do it. So I went to the minister, the Commerce Minister, and he also said, no, there's no law. And the Secretary of Ministry of Commerce, he was totally reluctant. So it was like every day, John, for 7 months, I was going to that ministry every day and trying to lobby, sitting here, sitting there.
Right. The finance ministry, the commerce ministry, they were telling you, no, you are not allowed to create a women's business organization.
So I went to the commerce minister, the late Mr. Jalil, and then I said, the prime minister, whenever she met me, she used to say, "Oh, you are only alone. Where are the other women entrepreneurs?" Because in the ABCs, I was the only lady. So I said, the Bangladesh government and the Bangladeshi prime minister is a woman, and why we can't have a women's chamber of commerce? And I went with the constitution of Bangladesh, because in Bangladesh constitution, it is said that men and women are equal. And also there was a line where it was mentioned that anything which can bring benefit for the woman, the government must give it. So I said, tell me how this Women Chamber of Commerce can bring wrong or do wrong for the women entrepreneurs. Why it will not bring benefit? And I'm a recognized woman entrepreneur. So I'm a business leader already. So I do remember one day I called him. I still remember. I called him and I said that I think it was 20th of 19th of June. So there was Hortal, and this, Hortal means strikes. BNP, Awami League strikes was happening. The election, the election was in the doorstep.
And what year is this, Salima?
It is 2001. I started submitting the memorandum and article of association in January, 20th of January. I do remember the date. I was like a bit agitated. And I said, your government, you people, you minister, wherever you are going, you are talking about women's equality, you are taking, the government is supporting women's development, women entrepreneurship, and the prime minister is also would like to see more women entrepreneurs. Then why you not give? I don't know, I was a bit sort of rude also. And then after like 10 minutes, the office, the minister office called me and they said, come tomorrow with all your documents. And he was saying, because by that time everyone knew me because I was going there every day. So they said, come tomorrow because I think you're going to get something, the license or something like that. Then you see, how you will come? Because there is a hotta and then strike. I said, I'll come. So I tell my husband that I have to go tomorrow. My husband said, how you're going to go? Because the license is given by the Ministry of Commerce, all the trade bodies.
So I just want to make sure. So what Salim is describing, there's a nationwide strike, basically, a lot of unrest in Dhaka, but yet she's been told by the finance, come tomorrow, you'll get your paperwork tomorrow.
So my husband was saying, how you go? So I rented an ambulance. And because my from my home to that Modijil is quite far. So I rented an ambulance and then I went to the ministry. And I do remember the people when I was entering, because the people were looking at me, where is the patient or who is there? So I entered and they gave us it is called a special gadget notification, not a trade license. Gadget notification for Women Chamber of Commerce. But they didn't give the name Bangladesh Women Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It was Bangladesh Women Chamber of Business and Industry, because when they were saying Chamber of Commerce cannot happen, I said, all right, give me a Women Chamber of Business and Industry. It will not conflict the other chamber of commerce, because my aim was to form an organization, whatever the name is. I want to have a legal entity for the women entrepreneur. So first I got this under the gadget notification for Bangladesh Women Chamber of Business and Industry. And the interesting part, after that, the hotel was over and I had a press conference declaring the formation of this chamber of commerce. Immediately the Apex Trade Board, I had this they put an advertisement in the newspaper that there cannot be a women chamber of commerce and industry and a women chamber of business and industry. So that journey took me for 7 years. Every year we have to renew. And I do remember after 2 years, there was another DTU. I went there and I said, there was a mistake. I think in the trade board, all the names are Chamber of Commerce. So Bangladesh Women Chamber of Business and Industry is a mistake. So we need to rectify. Somehow that DTU said, yeah. there need to be a rectification. So he rectified, and ultimately we become the Bangladesh Women Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The 7 years actually it took, and I do remember when another commerce secretary came, I was very agitated because every time I'm going and I'm saying, give us a permanent. And by that time, with CIPE, actually, we've started the work. Our work was visible. Ministers are coming and participating. So I said, why you not give us permission? So the secretary of Ministry of Commerce, by that time the other secretary has gone, the new secretary came, said, all right. I said, call the law ministry, find out whether there is a law, whether it's illegal, why we can't have. So the law ministry came, and I do remember there was a big table and all the deputy secretary or joint secretary, all this Ministry of Commerce, from the Ministry of Law, they were there. And I took all the documents of our activities and I said, I challenge you. I challenge you that you show me how many Chamber of Commerce, because by that time 64 Chamber of Commerce with the mainstream Chamber of Commerce was there, like District Chamber of Commerce, like Dhaka Chamber, Narangan Chamber, Rajshahi Chamber, all the district chamber. I said, how many chamber has worked like us? I took all the documents. It was like a, huge sort of document. And they were also surprised. And then the law ministry said, yes, uh, they can have a chamber of commerce. So that time the decision was, ultimately we got the TO license, the Trade Ordinance Act, by the Trade Ordinance Act. Whenever you have a TO license, you can, after that, you can become a member of FBCCI. The interesting part was when we wanted to become it, because that's the step. First you have a TO license, then you become a member of the FBCCI, and then you become like a flow or a member of the whole business community of the trade arena. So when we went to the FBCCI said, no, you cannot be, because it's illegal. I said, the government has given all the Chamber of Commerce. When they have a TO license, and there is a law also that by this time you can, the Chamber of Commerce, the FBCCI, have to give a TO license. So what they did, they filed a case against us with some other Chamber of Commerce and one women entrepreneurs organization, which is a sort of a political sort of thing. And they filed a case. And I had to be in the court. And I still remember when I was sitting in the court, I was thinking, what I have done sitting in the court, what crime I have done for being a Chamber of Commerce. And I was so tensed also, because if the court says that it's illegal or you can't do it, we're gone, because ultimate verdict is from the court. And our lawyer, she was actually a human rights activist, a woman activist for the gender equality. So she actually didn't know much of the law of the Chamber of Commerce, the commercial law. So I was every time putting a slip and give it to him. I do remember the judge. I met him in one of the family functions later on in a wedding ceremony. So he told me, I was very surprised that you were giving every second almost giving a slip to your advocate, to your lawyer, because I said, because my lawyer was not very, I could find when the other lawyer was speaking, she couldn't give the right answer or a confident answer. But ultimately we own. And so that's the way. But again, FBCCI didn't wanted us to, so they filed another case. It was a huge issue.
It's an amazing story of perseverance and ingenuity.
Finally, we became a member of the FBCCI and mainstream. Now I recently became a panel advisor of the FBCCI. So within 22 years, a Chamber of Commerce, which they didn't recognize, now they're putting us everywhere.
It is, like I said, it's a remarkable story of perseverance and ingenuity. The fact that basically the governments, to use an old expression, the good old boys club, kept on saying no girls allowed.
Yes.
And didn't take that as an answer. They sued you, they took you to court. And so the perseverance and the ingenuity of getting around a nationwide strike by renting an ambulance, it's a remarkable story, Salima. So how did you come across CIPE? When you created the Women's Business Chamber. How did CIPE come into the picture?
First, I should mention that the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, they supported our Chamber of Commerce, to have an office.
It proved to be a very wise investment by CETA. The Canadians should be congratulated.
I think so. And I do remember I went to them and I said, I don't want to make this organization Selima's organization. I wanted to have a office, separate office, not putting BWCCI in my office. Mostly we have seen many organization or the Chamber of Commerce running, but actually they're putting with the president's office. So I said, I don't want to do that. So I need to have an office. So I made an office. One of the gender specialists, she was all the time telling me, Salima, one of the things you have to do is to work on advocacy, because for the development of Bangladeshi women entrepreneurs, you need to do advocacy. And at that time I said, what is advocacy actually? I didn't know actually what is advocacy. And by that time, with the Dhaka Chamber of Commerce, CIPE was working with Dhaka Chamber. So with an event when the CIPE and Dhaka Chamber, I went there. And I found that Dhaka Chamber was working with CIPE, and these issues are advocacy sort of related. So I was attending, I think 2005, for the Beijing +5 in New York for the UN program. So I thought, let me deroute. I'll go to Washington and go meet CIPE. That time, John
Calabout.
Yeah, so I met him in Dhaka. By that time, I with my friend and with one of my mentor, that what sort of advocacy, actually, what is advocacy? That time we found that, okay, trade license, we have to see the access to bank, whatever the women entrepreneurs was coming. And by that time, whenever we are having meeting, three things was coming: their capacity building and their access to bank, because microfinance was popular, people are taking microfinance, but now that growing from the micro, they want to come to the SMEs. That path was not there. So I do remember I wrote a small sort of a points, and I came to CIPE office and dropped that one to him. And then later on, I had a conversation, and CIPE grant. Andrew was the regional director at that time.
And the CIPE's work with BWCCI is work that CIPE is still proud of. In fact, it's led to CIPE working with women's business associations all over Asia, all over the world.
But John, as I said, with all our partners, it's like you have a project, you do your things. If you can't do the things, you are worried what my partner is going to say. But CIPE, I do remember when Andrew was in Bangladesh, they were always trying to learn what I want to say. They were hearing, they were listening, they were finding out a solution. That's this is the right way. You shouldn't do like this. True mentor. When I have learned so much during that time, if CIPE was not our partner, I can confidently say the way we have come out, it would not be possible.
And our support of you and your organization, Salim, is work that CIPE is still proud of. So when you started BWCCI, like you said, it took years of they wouldn't give you a license, and then they took you to court, to the boys outside their clubs sticking up a "No Girls Allowed" sign. I'm sure at the beginning, BWCCI was small, but it's not small anymore. If you could share with our listeners, maybe who aren't familiar, just to give them a sense of what BWCCI has become, the influence that BWCCI now has.
I always feel that this is a really proud journey for BWCCI, because, as I said, our mentor CIPE was always guiding us. When we formed the chamber, they found that, okay, you have to do this advocacy. That time they were trying to find out the cinema. You are doing policy advocacy, but why don't you do Women's National Business Agenda? And I said, what is this WINBA? I have never heard about it. Corny, she came as a guide to teach us how to do WINBA, how to do advocacy. So when we started with CIPE, one of the things was that doing FGD with the grassroots women entrepreneurs, focus group discussions, finding out their issues, finding out their problems, sharing their whatever they want to achieve. And from that, when this Women's National Business Agenda issue came, that time also CIPE sent us someone expert to teach us, to guide us, and we learned. And I do remember Andrew also came when we were doing the WINBA, that how you would like to. He sat with us, he guided us. I still remember. So that guidance was very there. And then we had a Women's National Business Agenda, and we consulted with 1,800 women entrepreneurs all over Bangladesh. And we were, with that WINBA of FGD, 180 NGOs who are doing with women's economic empowerment. They were also included. So it was very enriched dialogue and discussion. And then we had to find out what are the actually agenda, what is our, so many agendas, someone is saying access to finance, someone is access to literacy, someone is saying training, social barriers, all sort of things, design development. So it was like 40, 50 issues are coming up. So I do remember Andrew said, find out 3-4 main agenda, what actually you have to do. And I've never done, although I have a goal as a president or as a founder, but I learned also from side that democracy thing, giving equal opportunity. This is the choice. And the choice I have always given, and that equal opportunity I have always given to all my members. Although I am a president, although I'm a founder, but never ever I have done anything without their choice, without giving them an opportunity to say that BWCCI needs that or BWCCI should go like that way.
Wow.
So that was the which is the key of democracy, which I learned from CIPE, because CIPE, I do remember, it was in Ukraine, in Kiev. There was a World Movement of Democracy conference, assembly there, and CIPE took me there. So I was a speaker there also, where I didn't know much about the democracy thing. So these are the sort of a direct or indirect influence I have with the CIPE. So I'm coming to what we have done. So we have done this WINBA, where ultimately we find out that Bangladeshi women entrepreneurs need, first agenda was social barriers. And as I said, when I was talking about this equal opportunity and choice and democracy, I was in a very democratic way. I sat with the FGD leaders, and I said, you have to debate, and you cannot leave the rooms identified number one, number two, number three, because there were like 3-4 groups. Someone is saying, we want to have this as the number one, we want to have these as number two, we have to. So I said, you fight, you discuss, but you can't leave, unhappily that, oh, this is wrong. You all have to ultimately say, yes, this is right. So those who are saying this has to be number one, you make them understand, who are not want to have that as a number one. So ultimately, the women entrepreneurs, when they were discussing, finally they identified social barriers as number one. And I was saying, why social barriers? You are all the time coming and asking for access to finance, access to finance. Why it cannot be the number one? Then they said, even if we get an access to finance, if we don't have a environment of gender equality in my marketplace, even in my house, my husband, have I faces domestic violences, and if I am not free of my choice of doing businesses, then I cannot proceed. So agenda first was social barriers, and then second they said capacity building. I said, where is your access to finance? They said, if I don't have capacity to run my business, what I'm going to do having a bank loan? So second was capacity building, and third was access to finance. And in WINBA, we identified these three, and we had a huge conference. And that time, our theme song was also, we have done still in any occasion we sing that song. And we had the finance minister, we had home minister, and we had Bangladesh bank governor. Because these are the three areas: access to finance, Bangladesh bank governor, the social barriers is the home minister, and for capacity building and the minister of.
And I tell you what, Salima, you're stressing the point of democracy, that CIPE's motivation wasn't a jobs program. It's not an economic development program. This is a democracy program. And the issue of empowering women's voices, empowering women entrepreneurs to advocate for themselves so that they're not reliant on some outside donor. They're not reliant on a politician's support. They have a seat at the table that they have themselves, that they control. It's what CIPE calls democratizing opportunity, breaking down barriers to economic opportunity that are disproportionately faced by women, other marginalized demographics. And so CIPE's work with BWCCI is a program that has launched hundreds of other programs of CIPE's all over the world. But speaking of democracy, we only have a few minutes remaining, Salima. When you have a politician on, it's fun to talk politics. And so, Salima, the last question I have for you, I'm sure what people are interested to hear is just your take on, what is the latest political news out of Bangladesh? What should the world expect out of the upcoming election? And more generally, if you have a crystal ball, Salima, what do you think is going to come next for Bangladesh? It's a country with a booming economy. It's in the news a lot these days. And so if you could gaze into your crystal ball and tell us what to expect, I know people would love to hear it.
Would like to have a peaceful election, would like to have participation of all parties. There is no bar, no one is stopping anyone to participate into the election. Even from our party, what we are getting information or guidance is that go to the voters and see that voters come participate in the election and go door to door, ask your vote. So we are actually preparing for the election. For me as a member of parliament, if you ask me, I will say I only know that I have to go to my people, to meet my people and ask for vote. And whatever the good things we have done from my government and whatever the things we want to do, which we couldn't do. So that's the way, as a member of parliament, I'm doing. Of course, there is we found that there are other parties who are raising issues, but peaceful politics is very important. Because of Ukraine and Russia war, the commodity prices all over the world has increased, like Bangladesh also. And during that time, if hartal and strike is there, the movement of commodities, already the prices are high, and this movement of commodities will be lesser. And then ultimately, who is going to suffer? It's the people who is going to suffer. So for me, participation into the election is important. And the election commissioner responsibility is to see that a free, fair election happens. And as a member of parliament from my party, I can say we had a meeting with our prime minister, which is the president of Bangladesh, Amuli. She said, you go to your people and ask for vote. No one is going to elect you if voters doesn't vote you. So this passage is very clear from her. So we are getting ready for that. But now what the other political party is doing, that solution need to be done definitely. But how that solution will be done, I think again they have to sit with this Nirvachan commissioner, the election commissioner, and find out a way and participating in the election. I think that's the main way. I would also like to tap on, as we are talking about the Women Chamber of Commerce and Women's Economic Empowerment, that discrimination is everywhere. Even as a woman parliamentarian, being a woman, that discrimination is there. And the women entrepreneurs also all over the world, I'm sure, women business leaders are facing discrimination. So that dividend is still not there. As a member of parliament, I'm an elected of member of parliament. But still I found that inequality between men parliamentarian and a woman parliamentarian. So it's not to blame any party, but that thing is there, the environment is there. So I don't know how we will build our capacity, but as a politician, but with the women entrepreneurs or the women's business organization, I would like to say build your own roadmap. No one is going to give you any roadmap. We have to make our own roadmap, and we have to reach through government, through politicians, through through media and through people like CIPE to reach our goal, which is our own roadmap. As a woman politician, as a woman business leader, as a woman entrepreneur, I always feel that whatever we would like to see this in this world, whatever we want to make it happen, we have to make our own way. Otherwise, no one will help us, except CIPE, who has been supporting and helping for women entrepreneurs and women economic development. I think CIPE, why CIPE is doing. CIPE believes in democracy. CIPE believes in equality, and that's why they are doing it. So I thank you that giving women entrepreneurs of South Asia and other part of the world. I have worked with Uganda, I've been to Tunisia, Azerbaijan, Papua New Guinea, and South Asia with all the women entrepreneurs with the support of CIPE. Only interest of CIPE was to see that the benefits of democracy, which is equality, and to see that we women entrepreneurs get equal opportunity into the business arena.
This has been a conversation with Ms. Salima Ahmed, Member of Parliament, founder and longtime chair of the Bangladesh Women's Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a champion of the rights of women and girls in Bangladesh more generally. And this has been a special series celebrating CIPE's 40th anniversary. Again, Salima, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. Lastly, I'd like to say today is a very happy day for us. We have made a training institute, which is called Women Institute for Entrepreneur and Leadership Development, WILT, and it's an 8-storied building. And today it will be a 1 month, 3 weeks course. And this women entrepreneurs, it's a residential training. Will be starting from Sunday, and I want good wishes, all the good wishes and the support from CIPE. We have come into this position, and we are so much empowered, and we are now equal, at least in the business arena of Bangladesh.
Very impressive. Thank you so much, Salima. You're a good friend of CIPE, and we look forward to many more success stories to come.
Thank you, and congratulations, CIPE.